From the banks of Dewey Lake, it's the Dewey Pod Monster.
Welcome back. My name is John, and this is the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. This is your weekly podcast about consumption. And with me this week is the host of the Dewey Pod Monster podcast. His name is Sean, and he is the authority on Michigan craft beer. Sean, how are you doing today?
Just reprogramming some old shoebox robots, getting them around the ship. Been a little busy with that. How about you?
I don't know. Every single time I wake up, some very aggro woman screams and calls me a slut, and I get very upset about it. But
that's not your wife?
No, it's not my wife.
Oh, yikes.
My wife has both her eyes, thankfully.
She's not aggro and yelling at you?
Not today. Maybe tomorrow.
Well, there you go.
There's always room for another aggro scolding or something.
Always a silver lining.
That's right. So I know it's only been a couple days since we've recorded last, but what have you been up to? It's been a holiday weekend, so there's been all kinds of times for shenanigans, hopefully.
Yeah, I watched a few things. I got a chance to, I don't know, just got a wild hair up my ass last night and decided I was going to start watching Beyond the Mat, the documentary, again. I've seen it several times, but I think you talked about it recently, right? You just recently watched it?
I watched 350.
Oh, okay. I thought you had said that you would. So if people aren't familiar, the Beyond the Mat's a 1999, I think, film, basically about the wrestling business. They cover a few people that are trying to ascend to the ranks of the WWF at the time. They talk to Mick Foley or Mankind or Cactus Jack or Hey Dude Love. I was going to say Hey Dude. That doesn't make sense. Dude Love. And they
just talk to his shoe. So.
Hey, nice Buster Brown or whatever those things were that they look like. And then they kind of follow Jake the Snake, and it's part of his kind of descent into not great things. But his story is probably the most interesting because he kind of goes into the same kind of spiel that you've heard from Jake the Snake at that time about his dad being a pederast, basically, and him being a bad person and a bad father because he doesn't really see his kids because he's a bad person. And it goes into his kind of drug use a little bit. They mention his daughter comes to visit him at a local hotel that he went to. She's getting her master's degree or whatever. And within 5 minutes of her coming, he hadn't seen her in years. He's like, all right, well, I got to go. And then he leaves to wander around for a while. And then like the next day says he has to leave, and they find him in his room smoking crack, like all that stuff. He's turned his life around by now, thankfully. But it's just an interesting one to go back to. It's a really easy watch if you're into wrestling or the history of wrestling or just kind of behind the scenes wrestling stuff. That's kind of my MO for a lot of the wrestling documentaries I watch. That really fills that niche. And then I also started watching Mrs. Davis on Peacock. It's got Betty Gilpin from Glow. She's I forgot what character she plays in Glow, but
I haven't watched that either. And I wanted to, and it's, that's a Netflix show, right?
Yeah, Glow's on Netflix. Yep.
The roller derby or something like that.
It's about women's wrestling, the gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Even better. I wanted to watch that, and I don't remember why I couldn't watch it when it came out, but sometimes if you don't watch it within the first week or two, it just gets buried and you forget about it.
Oh yeah.
That's what happened with Glow. So now that you've mentioned it, I'm going to have to go dig it up and try to remember to watch that.
Yeah, well, not to go off too far on a tangent about Glow. That's a really good show, but it kind of just dies because Netflix will sometimes just cancel a show.
Right.
Just because it doesn't drive the numbers that they want it to. It might have good numbers. It just doesn't do what they expect it to do. But so Glow's a good show. But Mrs. Davis is basically Betty Gilpin plays they kind of present her as being a nun. And there's this ubiquitous AI. You could think like a Siri or Hey Google or, Alexa or one of those things. And all these people walk around with earpieces and she's never talked to it. She doesn't engage with this thing. And you kind of start learning her backstory that her parents were magicians and David Arquette plays her dad. So that kind of ties into the wrestling thing. I'm only 2 episodes into it. I don't even know if I finished the second episode, but it seems really weird, but really interesting at the same time. So I'm going to let it ride and see how it turns out. It could be really good or it could be meh, but we'll see.
I know weird and interesting is usually a good combination. That's the kind of thing that at least piques my curiosity.
Well, I'm not quite sure if it's this is weird, I want to watch it, or this is weird and I can't follow what's going on yet. I'm not, it might take a few episodes to really warm up so I can make a real strong opinion, but I'll let it ride for a little while and see see how it goes.
Well, I mean, if it's weird, it at least has something to at least get your attention. Maybe it fizzles out, but I don't know. I watched something weird this week, sort of. The only thing I wrote, well, I was on Podcast in the Woods live stream last night, so I watched 1.5 sleepaway camp movies. So that was a blast because I'm always up for watching sleepaway camp. But separate from that, I realized that they made a sequel to Sorority Babes and the Slimeball Bubble-rama. I have no idea why. I didn't really think that movie needed a sequel, and upon watching it, I still don't think that movie needed a sequel.
Are you saying they didn't leave a whole bunch of loose ends at the end of the first one?
They didn't leave a whole lot of things to warrant loose ends or not. It wasn't that good a story to begin with. And the second one is somehow, well, it's under an hour, so that's a big plus. Like, I think that's why I put it on, because I was like, well, I can get through this fairly quickly, and regardless of how good or bad it is. But it still has the same really, I'm not sure what stereotype the imp in this movie is what they're trying to present with this, but it sounds like the kind of thing you're like, how did this get through? Like, I understand how this got through in like 1985 or whatever year the first one came out. In 2023, I was like, I feel like someone would say he really shouldn't talk like that because that's going to offend someone. So
sometimes that's
but they didn't do that
movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they rolled with it, and it is, clearly making all the money in the world by being on Tubi for free, right? So,
yeah, absolutely.
sign of a true masterpiece, I'm sure. But yeah, past that, I didn't really have time to watch much of anything else. Like I said, if you're not watching live right now, which no one is currently, this is a holiday, it's Memorial Day weekend. So trying to, get out of the house a little bit, go buy some pool, go buy some, barbecue, whatever, do the traditional celebration that we do. Want to get into our topic?
Yeah, let's dive in.
So this week we are talking about a real classic movie. Depending on where you look it up, it has several different names. The name that I saw initially when I found it is Star Slammer, which is available to watch on Tubi, and I'm sure it's on other bad platforms for free. The full title if you look on IMDb, appears to be The Adventures of Taura, Prison Starship Slammer. And then if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, it's just Prison Ship. So it's all over the place. We always start with a third-party review, and this is going to be the same thing that we always do. Priscilla on IMDb gives this movie 3 out of 10 stars. And I don't know, I'm assuming Priscilla is a female name. So she says, odd to be 1986 again. That's the whole review.
That's a good place to start.
Yeah. So you want to go ahead and try to start our plot on this?
Yeah, and just to clarify, this is available according to justwatch.com. It's free on Tubi with ads. Kino Now, which again, this is when we start to find all these streaming services that come out of the woodwork that no one has ever heard of, but you can rent it or buy it on Kino Now for $5 to rent or $10 to buy. I think I would just go the Tubi route if it was me personally. So, as we always do via IMDb, we have either the plot or the storyline. They're really very similar this week, so I'm just going to go with the storyline because that's currently what I'm staring at. But it says, 2 women who have been unjustly confined to a prison planet plot their escape, all the while having to put up with lesbian guards, crazed wardens, and mutant rodents.
Again, if that doesn't sell you on this movie, I don't know what would.
I feel like the lesbian guard part is really oversold in both the plot and the storyline because they both mention it. To be clear, there are only 2 females that are in a role of authority in this movie of the prison ship. See, is it actually a planet? Because they're flying around on this ship.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a planet. I thought it was a ship. The only time, they're on a planet to start the movie, and it looks like they just went to, some trail in California or in Arizona or something and just recorded before someone told them to leave.
Before someone said, hey, where's your permit?
Yeah, something like that.
The plot and the storyline, according to IMDb, or what we call the plot and the storyline, are exactly the same. Just to clarify that for any sticklers out there.
So this movie is one of those movies that this time it was my turn to stumble on it and just kind of instantly be like, look at this and say, this is so fucking ridiculous that we have to talk about this movie. So I'm glad that we've made it. This is now the second time this year that we've ran into such utter ridiculous trash and brought it to an episode within weeks of finding said trash. So did you have any expectations with this after I had described what I was watching to you? And I know you said you saw those couple clips that I posted online too.
Yeah, you were kind of ballyhooing this, so I was expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. Schlock, for sure. I wasn't expecting a grand.
Would
goes
you
with the
expect
territory.
anything less from me?
Yeah. And this is, just to put it out there as well, this is Fred Olen Ray, directed by Fred Olen Ray, which I think he produces a lot of stuff. But that's, if you've ever heard of Fred Olen Ray, and he's got a shit ton of credits to his name. His most recent ones, just to kind of put it out there, just so you get an idea if you're not familiar with his work. His most recent movies, a couple of them actually look like they're, I don't know, Christmas movies or something, but Piranha Women, The Killer in My Backyard, Deadly Shores, Fiance Killer. It looks like he's moved into a lot of the, possibly, I didn't look at in depth at these titles, but they look like they could be possibly like those Lifetime kind of movies to get you drawn in about, you know, Killer Under My Mattress or whatever, you know, like one of those kind of movies that are made for shock value.
They make look like a lot of like cable movies or something like that. Like what you would see almost on like TNT, like Saturday night movies or something.
Yeah, I mean, he's got other titles like Nuclear Hurricane, Bikini Pirates, Bikini Girls from the Lost Planet, Ghost in a Teeny Bikini, The Bikini Escort Company. I mean, that's all just from 2006, literally. All these bikini movies are 2006. So just, you know, just to throw that out there, that's the kind of quality we should be expecting.
2006, the year of the bikini.
Yes. Yeah. And I think probably 2004 was also the year of the bikini, and 2003. And, you know,
I'm sure he has a contract with whatever studio saying, you know what, I will make 40 movies for you this year, but at least 30 of those 40 movies have to have bikini in the title.
Right. He's probably got some bikini sponsorship that he has to fulfill the mention of their name multiple times in these movies.
Ooh, Bikini Frankenstein. We might have to watch that one. So,
see, it's a goldmine. Have you heard of him before? Fred Olen Ray?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's like total schlockmeister, so...
I mean, I'm looking through this list, and there's one movie in here called Super Shark, which I'm 99% sure I've seen, which, I mean, I'm sure you can guess by the title what that is. But kind of scrolling through this, like, I feel like a lot of these movies are titles that I've either, you know, thumbed over while scrolling through, probably through Tubi, or seen, like, I wouldn't be surprised if I've seen, like, a whole bunch of these. But there's nothing about them that really sticks out and say, oh, that is, you know,
Fred Olen Ray.
That movie. Right.
Just looking at the names, I mean, that's probably going to be your best.
He also has a movie called Billy Frankenstein. So,
oh, hey, there you go. He knows his market.
Rapid Assault. Yeah. This is the part of the show where we just read through this guy's work. He's got a lot of credits here as a director, though.
It's like 160 some. But anyways, seeing his name in the credits, I knew I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting into, because this is kind of this kind of area is a little bit of my bread and butter, I think. So
1985, Sleaze Mania. Sorry. Oh, Sleaze Mania Strikes Back. I gotta stop looking at this guy's titles.
It's a gold mine of titles to watch.
It really is.
But I bet a lot of the scenes from they'll all be recycled, so they'll look very familiar to you. That's one thing. Watching this, I was like, some of these special effects are pretty good. And then I started like, oh yeah, that's from this, that's from that. You know, you started to see like little pieces that didn't really fit at all together. And I think he borrowed a lot of stuff, or borrowed in quotes, air quotes, borrowed a lot of stuff from Dark Star, the John Carpenter movie. So yeah, ship design looked a little familiar.
Yeah, he also, the way they used the laser guns looked a lot like the laser guns in Spaceballs near the end of the movie too. Like the effect they used and even the sound effect. I felt like I was watching Spaceballs for about 2 minutes, and then they went into like, I don't know, shoving like worms in a girl's face or something and calling it food or whatever. So I guess we should start with what we like about this movie. I mean, do you want me to go on about that, or do you want to start us with that?
I think mine will be pretty short. I like the effects. I did like the sets. I thought the sets. So this movie, basically Taura, the character that we talked about her earlier, and basically she is, she's a minor. She's kind of
like a Barbarella type.
Yeah, kind of. And she's leading this troop of little people with masks on that say
very Ewok-like.
Yes, and say a lot of nonsense. And she gets put in prison because she was illegally mining this crystal or whatever. And so that first 15 minutes, maybe 15 is a little bit generous. The first 15 minutes or so take place in an actual environment where they're out in the desert or whatever. And then the rest of the movie takes place on this quote unquote prison planet, but it's a ship. So take that for what it's worth. And when I first saw the set inside the ship, I was like, oh, this is actually, again, look at who we're working with here, right? As far as the director, the direction is going. And I was like, this is actually really pretty good looking for a a C grade movie or whatever. And then they show those same corridors and hallways and the same set piece over and over And it's like, if you like the color gray, like dark gray, this is an awesome set. So that was kind of a pro at first, and then it just kind of, because they're just reused so often. I mean, out of necessity, they just didn't have any other stuff. I get it. I'm sure this wasn't like a blockbuster movie, but it probably made its money back. Really, some of the pieces was like, they talk about this lesbian thing, which whatever. I mean, it is what it is. But again, there's only 2 women in this movie that are in authority, and none of the prisoners, from what I could tell, they never really pressed this angle. If it wasn't already said, like in the storyline, I wouldn't know that this was supposed to be some kind of lesbian thing.
I'm pretty sure one of the authoritarian figures actually hooks up with like 2 or 3 random guys throughout this movie too. Like, she gets with the dude whose hand is like melted off or whatever. By the way, spoilers for this almost 40-year-old prison lesbian movie or whatever this is. But she gets with him, and then doesn't she get with one of the other, like, I don't know that he's a guard or whatever. He shows up and starts shooting up the prison at some point and takes off and kind of has a big, almost like so he got spray painted silver football pads on, and they're calling that armor or something.
Well, I think a lot of it is this. So there's the guard. The guards are all these androids, and they're just kind of dressed up with masks. You can't see their face. I mean, they're probably just supposed to be robots or whatever, but they call them androids. And there's this group. The guy that gets her put in jail is, I think he's like a bounty hunter or something, and he has a crew basically that he rolls with. And they somehow get on the ship, like they're on the ship to dispatch Taura, basically. And I think 2 of his guys hook up with the warden Exene, played by Maria Gant, who is, funnily enough, she's in a movie called Hack-O-Lantern, is just like a side person. Side note about Hack-O-Lantern, we're going to have to talk about that movie. There is a comedian in the middle of the movie. The movie just stops, and this guy goes through his stand-up routine. And when I was doing my B-movie site, I put the clip on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this guy's awful stand-up thing, because it's bad. I mean, it's really, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's like a bad routine. And he somehow found my phone number and called me and was like, and he left a voicemail, and I think I might still have the voicemail somewhere. He's like, I finally got a hold of you dick, or something. He's like just going off on me because I put this YouTube clip up.
We're going to have to use that clip in the episode.
Yeah, I know. I'm just opening old wounds. Now he's going to know what I look like. Jeez. He already had all my information. But yeah, so anyways, it's just kind of head scratcher, a lot of the plot of this movie, of what you can call plot, I guess.
I mean, I don't really think that there's a whole lot of plot in this movie. And for this kind of movie, I'm absolutely fine with that. I mean, this movie is very much so like, let's get a bunch of women in a area, like have them fight needlessly, occasionally have a boob or 4 fly out, and really just make this as cheesy as possible. And that's, for me, absolutely fine. Everything from, again, this movie starts with a little Ewok dude who's trying to scratch his face and like rips his own face off, and they just laugh at him. So that's good. This is before they get on the prison. When they're doing their introduction of all the characters, like the gang of girls, the way they all have to go up and say their name, like, I'm Muffin, and like whip a little, like,
I'm beautiful and I'm bad.
Right.
Oh, wait, different movie.
It's close enough. I mean, it's also cringe, but it's also like 1980s cringe that you can't help but laugh at it.
I have some points of contention with your little whatever, the boobs. This movie, I mean, we obviously these days, if we want to see boobs, we can go a multitude of places. Sure. There's not really the only person that we see throughout the entire movie that's even showing any. Yeah, is the main character, Sandy Brooke. That's the actor. I don't know, whatever. But that's like the only character you really see anything. This is touted as a comedy sci-fi action movie or something. Isn't that how? I think that's how Tubi actually defines it.
That's what it says on here too, on IMDb.
There's not a lot of action. I mean, they're talking a lot. Like, it takes until almost the end of the movie before we really get much action besides the opening of the movie.
Well, you have the scene with the Saturday morning TV star that they have to fight, which I guess you could call that action. I mean, it's clear that there's a budgetary reason why the action in this movie is kind of cut the way it is, because according to this is only a $200,000 movie, and apparently they didn't want to make Art the Clown, so they made this.
$200,000 didn't get you much in 1986, I guess.
I mean, I would take this over Art the Clown, personally. I'm guessing you would.
I don't know. It's a hard decision.
Is it?
For
There's
me,
no clowns in this movie.
There's not enough to sustain anything for me. we're kind of already
Did
getting
you really
into it.
think there could be something that was going to be sustained?
I thought I would at least be entertained watching the movie. Like have sat through a lot of shit, and we've sat through a lot of shit for this podcast. Like recently, we've sat through a lot of shit, and I would put this on the boring end. It's not bad. It's just boring. Like nothing happens. I feel like you sold me a bill of goods, a bad bill of goods.
I'm kind of disappointed to hear this.
You touted it. I was going to get all excited to watch me some Star Slammer. I was rubbing my hands. I was like, oh, yeah. And then I watched it and I was like, oh, no.
Maybe I need to stop picking movies when I've been smoking. Could be part of the problem.
When's the last time how many times have you watched this, and when's the last time you didn't watch it?
Just 2 times. I watched it last on Saturday, I think. This isn't a movie that I feel a huge desire to go back and watch again. Now, if it happens to be on, I'm not going to be mad about it, but I don't feel like I missed anything in either viewing. I don't think there's a deeper meaning in this movie that I need to go back and dissect.
No.
But there's things that I find funny. Like there's just kind of going off of my notes on this. I like that there's a fight scene in this that screams beer commercial pool party music. And I don't exactly remember what that is at the moment, but it just totally played like a early 90s beer commercial to me.
Oh, I'd even go mid 80s.
Yeah, probably.
It's like this smooth jazz, I don't know, in this space movie where these 2 women, Taura and the other character, main character, Mike, are fighting, and there's just like the saxophones, like, and they're like somebody's going on a guitar. That's a good set of piece of music there. I gotta give you that.
I noted that I really enjoyed seeing like that these characters might be bipolar, because we watched this character go from fighting and killing someone to a harmonica jam session in like a closet or something, where she gets really, really into this like harmonica play, and to an extent that I didn't know you could do that while being in prison.
I did find it kind of funny that they're supposed to be in solitary confinement in that scene, in that set of scenes where they're in that little area in the phone booth, or they're each their individual phone booth, but they can talk to each other. Like they can talk freely between the cells, and it's like, I thought you were in solitary. Like you shouldn't be able to hear each other.
Because that's the only plot hole in this movie, is that they can hear each other in solitary.
That's true. So they were scheming there too. It sounds like a flaw in the design of the prison ship.
I laughed my ass off at how the rat puppet or mutant rats looked, which, as if this movie doesn't try to push for enough random off the wall ideas. Do we really need mutant rats too? But we have them. And they play a small role in the movie, but I don't even think they deserve to be like top billing on the poster like they get on a couple that I've seen. I don't have a whole lot else written down. I did write that I like that the knife fight obeys the rules of the Michael Jackson Beat It video.
Yes, true. Yeah, they hold a chain, and they held this chain in one hand to keep them attached, I guess, but they could let go of it at any arbitrary moment. And they have knives in the other hand, like these big Rambo knives, but they don't ever hit each other with the knives. They punch each other with the hand the knife is in. Like you could so easily cut them. Until
they hack a hand clean off, and you get some of the best worst acting from the guard or whatever she is. She basically looks at it, lifts her stub, and it just starts, it's like a garden hose. It just starts squirting blood out at that point. And she starts waving it around, and comically she waves it and just splatters everyone with a good like sploosh of blood, which I found that was funny. But she still can't get out of the handcuff, which I think if you hack the hand off, you should be able to get out of the handcuff pretty easily.
No, the hand's stuck in the handcuff. The arm is not.
Or that's right.
Yeah, because she swings it around and it splatters somebody with it. Yeah.
Yeah, my point is the same. The hand should be able to come out of the handcuff pretty well, because there's no arm there to, cuff to at this point. So I found that entertaining. And then when they finally get to having a spaceship fight in this movie just makes Star Wars look like utter shit. The effects in this are, and the top-notch green screen from 1985 looking like it, I don't know, it's like a cutscene from like a N64 movie or video game or something.
Well, the models look okay, but unfortunately, again, it's lifted from another movie that probably used it a lot better.
Yeah, fine. So what did you hate about this movie, other than not having enough happening in it for you, even though I just described a Michael Jackson knife fight, rats, and a monster? Well, I didn't even talk about the Saturday morning TV show monster. So,
well, I think unfortunately those scenes that you mentioned make up about a grand total of 2 minutes of the entire hour and a half runtime. So while they do have these scenes in them, they are so short-lived. The cartoon monster fight that you're talking about is basically, they show the monster, they show a POV shot, a point of view shot from the monster's face, and the women just basically, when it starts to move towards them, they roll out of the way. They like do a spin move out of the way, and then they show it again.
It doesn't look like it'd be very hard to evade this monster. It looks like just a pile of trash with some like googly eyes stuck on it. So.
Yeah, I concur. I think it looked like a nice pile of trash, which I think the monster was even reused from a different movie, I thought I read. But I think
I'm sure. They did that a lot with these. That's common with this era of monsters and whatnot. Why rebuild it when you could just repurpose it?
Yeah. So I think for me, the thing that I didn't like about it is just that, like I said, it was boring. I've seen, again, a lot of trash, a lot of schlocky stuff, a lot of crap movies. And there are a lot of them that I've seen that I will go back and watch because, again, I'm not looking for any deep meaning or anything. And this is not a movie that you're going to have to really put on your thinking cap to watch. But the best B movies, or the ones that I feel like are worth my time, are the ones that I want to go back and watch. This is not a movie that I ever want to go back and watch. Like I can watch The Stabilizer. I showed you The Stabilizer, which is like an Indonesian action film. And it's so ridiculous. I've seen that movie tens of times, if not like 50 times. And I love that movie. And I can go back and watch it. And it is shit. Like it is garbage, but it's hilarious garbage. And it's unintentionally hilarious. And I think that some movies, they have a hard time walking the line of, they might have a funny idea, or they might have a funny scene here or there, but it's very difficult when you're trying to go into a movie, trying to make it ridiculously whatever on purpose, and being able to do that and falling flat. And I feel like this movie, while they try to do things that are silly or just, absurd, they unfortunately don't walk the right side of the line of like, so bad it's good. This is just so bad it's bad, in my opinion.
I mean, I'm not going to go as far to say it's so bad it's good, but I'm not going to go as hard to say it's so bad it's bad either. Like, be perfectly honest, when that description that you read and looking at what the poster is for this movie, which will, I'm sure, include that when this comes out, or some version of it, this is kind of exactly what I expected. It's campy, it's schlocky, it's poorly made, but it's the kind of movie that you could tell the people who made this movie, maybe not the actors or the actresses, but whoever actually decided to film this movie, whatever his name is, David Allen Coe or whatever. That's
Fred Olen Ray.
This is. Right.
David Allen Coe.
Close enough. Slightly different genre there, but you can tell with this movie, and really with any movie at this era, like this kind of movie, they actually wanted to make this movie for better or worse. And that's, I don't know, I find that enjoyable when you see something like this. It's not like movies now where they crank them out in 15 minutes, everything's done on a computer, and no one really took the time to craft anything that's in it, and you get a piece of shit. This is a piece of shit made with love.
But we just said that they repurposed things, so they didn't actually sit and craft anything.
Yeah, well, repurposing counts.
And they did probably crank this out in 15 minutes. They just didn't have the use of the computer.
I'm counting it. So
yeah. I don't agree. I feel like if you cared about it that much, you'd make it where the product is actually something that's like you'd want people to watch. Like, this just seems like, for better or for worse, and this is ridiculous to even say, a cash grab. Like, I don't think anybody's making any cash off this, but they have to be doing something because he made 164 other movies in 30 years. So I don't know. Like I said, I want it, if I'm watching a bad movie, a schlocky movie, I want to laugh at something and not like go into it with an open mind and not sit there with my arms crossed for an hour and a half, like 45 minutes into the movie, thinking to myself, is this movie going to start, or are we just going to keep like talking about things that don't have anything to do with, they just kind of on a whim, they decide that they're going to escape this ship. It's like they don't really talk about it until, I don't even know if they really ever solidify the plan. They're just kind of like, we should get out of here. Yeah, let's get out of here. There are 2 people guarding us, 3 mercenaries, and a bunch of faceless, like, things that shoot when they want to. But it's just, I wasn't really entertained by it. It was just, I'm just waiting for it to be over.
Okay, well, we can cut it short then. We don't have to go on about this movie that you clearly didn't fall in love with. So you want to...
Well, I mean, we can talk about it as much as you want, but I'm just saying, I'm not saying right now. I'm saying while watching it,
sure.
I'm just like, when is this movie going to be done? So that I can talk to John about it.
Well, that's fair. So I'm glad that I come into your thought process with this. So,
well, I don't, I'm sure there's some of these movies that we've watched that I've suggested that have been total garbage. I'm sure you're kind of like, man, I guess I got to watch this thing, or got to watch this thing again.
There's one that comes to mind.
Is it Black Devil Doll?
It is.
Oh, hey, cool. That's my low bar. That's how I know somebody's in it for the long haul. Like, that's the test.
That's the test.
Yeah, you passed.
I mean, you could have me watch way worse than that, and I would still be in it. But
yeah, I mean, same with this. This isn't the worst thing I've ever seen. I just wasn't. I was ready for it to be done.
Okay, let me phrase it this way: if you might be a little high and found this at about midnight and started it, would you maybe have a little bit more fun with it? Because I think that's how I found it.
If I was high or drunk or whatever under some influence, and I didn't have the ability to change the channel or to change what I was watching, I would watch it. But I have like
that's not selling it at all.
No, I mean, I could jump on Tubi and watch anything else on there. I could watch, whatever. What did I see yesterday? Like, I'm getting all these I don't know, these like I don't even know if I should say this. I'm seeing all these like gangster movies on there, like urban gangster kind of movies, and I'm like,
yeah,
is this for me? When is the algorithm going to kick in so I can see all this schlocky stuff without having to find it on my own?
It takes a while, because for me, that's how I watched that really bad low budget like thing that was supposed to be like Grand Theft Auto Detroit, and it's so fucking terrible. It's literally like three dudes with like probably not even an iPhone, but like a phone cam just walking around what might or might not be Detroit. I mean, we're both near Detroit, and I can tell you with 100% certainty where they're wandering around is Detroit, but sure. And just kind of doing that like wooden Grand Theft Auto acting and moving and stuff like that, where, they'll pause the camera and then unpause it, and all of a sudden they have like a rifle or something,
Maybe they filmed it on like a BlackBerry or something, and they had 15 or 30 second
what it was.
Limitations of how much they could record before the file size was too big and something.
You know what? If that was the case, I might be more impressed with it. Like, you filmed this entire movie on 30-second clips, I would almost give you an extra hot dog just for that.
Oh, shit.
But it does take a while.
New idea in the pipe, in the works now.
Right. If you haven't already, start making your own like watch list on there, and that seems to get them to go like, oh, he likes shit. Okay, here you go. They just put a documentary on there that I haven't watched yet that's called like Sticky Floors and Popcorn or something like that. It's supposed to be about just like the grindhouse era of horror, as a dude who looks a lot like the Creep Show guy on the front of it, which isn't a grindhouse movie, but whatever. So yeah, they get better, but you do have to kind of push them in a direction for sure.
Yeah, I think just to go back to your original question, I think because if there was no other situation where I was, I just flipping through channels, like if I was watching cable back in the 90s and I'm flipping through the channels and it's on USA Up All Night, because you didn't get to see a lot of this stuff. You unless you went to the video store to pick this up, you probably wouldn't have found it other than it being shown to you on some, crappy
something that Joe Bob Briggs is saying, go watch this.
Yeah. But I think in this day and age, when we have, even we just talk about Tubi, we were just talking about all the crappy stuff on there, good crappy stuff or crappy stuff. I guess it's, you can't really make a decision on it just on
subjective
face value. Yeah.
So.
But with the option to watch all this other stuff, for me, I would just say like, I probably would have watched 15, 20 minutes of this if we weren't talking about it for the show and be like, it's not catching me. Like, it might be for somebody, it's just not for me. And I would switch to go watch something else. Speaking
of algorithms, I like that Amazon must be listening to us, because when I'm scrolling through the IMDb page for this, I have an ad for a 18 hot dog roller, kind of like you would see at 7-Eleven, It's only $181. That might be a good addition to the home.
Yeah, not bad. If we ever record together, we could like roll some hot dogs or something.
I agree. So we could actually give our ratings based off how many hot dogs we eat. No, that sounds terrible.
Oh my God, that sounds like a stinky night waiting to happen. We need to get a sponsorship, and we can have somebody sponsor this hot dog roller.
That's right. Get a hot dog sponsor for a hot dog roller. That shouldn't be too hard to do. I'm sure Oscar Mayer really needs the Dewey Podmonster podcast to be hawking hot dogs for him.
It would really lift that market share.
Did you see they renamed the Wienermobile to the Frankmobile?
No. No.
This was in my newsfeed this week. They actually have officially renamed the Wienermobile and the Weenie Whistles to Frank Whistles or the Frankmobile. And they say it's because they're Oscar Mayer Franks, but I'm like, you just don't want the word wiener in your title, and that's pretty lame. Everyone knows it's the Wienermobile.
I think that the Frank whistle is almost more offensive. Like, oh, this is Frank's whistle you're blowing on.
It's still shaped like a hot dog, so it's still kind of dick-shaped at the same time, so you might as well just call it a weenie whistle. But to be in 1986 again, where the Wienermobile was
Still the Wienermobile.
prominent. Well, I don't have a whole ton to add really with this one. I mean, this is probably going to be one of our shortest episodes when it's all said and done, because to be perfectly honest, I'm tired and I've said what I want to say about it. So why don't you kick us off on hot dogs? Tell us how we're ranking this one.
Well, sponsored by Oscar Mayer, my hot dog. I couldn't even think of another. Nathan's famous Franks. I don't know what the hell those things
Those
are
are
called.
way better than Oscar Mayer's.
They're pretty good. So anyways, I going into this, like you had told me about it, I had some high hopes about it, mostly from what you had told me and some of the clips I'd seen. Yeah, I mean, some space prison ladies fight off lesbian guards to escape the said prison. Where do I sign, right? I think what I got was one of the slowest pace, quote unquote, action movies that I've seen in a long time. I've seen a lot of movies like that, but this one kind of takes the cake. I was impressed, like I said earlier, about the special effects until I realized they borrowed them from other movies. And again, that kind of set repurposing or reusing over and over again was like, ugh. I was really hoping they saved up all the budget for the action scenes. Because
you really need to isolate that sound and make a drop out of it or something. Sorry.
That's all right. I was just hoping they would have really saved up the budget that they didn't spend on the sets to make the final confrontation kind of be more of a payoff. And there really was no payoff because there's no stakes. There's not low stakes. There's no stakes. Like I didn't care what happened to anybody. So it was like, oh, okay, cool. They escaped. I kind of expected that. I couldn't make heads or tails of the lesbian storyline. I mean, there's a lot of attractive women in this movie, relatively attractive ladies in this movie. And, you would have thought if they're writing all this stuff about this lesbian guard situation, they would have had like this women in prison kind of situation. Just it never takes off. Like I said, there were only 2 women of authority in the movie. So the rest of the people in the ship were just androids with long hair, top knots that walked around man buns, and they kind of looked menacing for about a second. I'm going to give this 3 space rats out of 11 hot dogs.
All right, fair enough. I found this movie to be entertaining. It is. There's really not a way I can say anything about this that's too positive other than it's dumb. It earns the title of being dumb. It is really a shitty movie, but it's just shitty enough to be funny to me. The effects that are in it, the puppeting, the fight scenes, the ridiculous physics of said fight scenes, they don't make any sense. And if you question it, you're just going to find yourself getting pissed off at it more than likely. But that's kind of okay. It's one of those movies where I'm like, this is really not worth me I'm going to just accept what this movie's trying to give me and go from there. I agree with you that the whole lesbian angle is incredibly oversold because there's none of that in it. I mean, maybe, I guess, but not really. But whatever. For a movie that you can find on a schlocky streaming network for free, which absolutely do not pay to see this movie. If you don't have to, just go watch it. I can't say that enough. This is the definition of a movie that should not be paid to watch. You should be watching this as something that you already have, not because you purchased it, because you either found it on Tubi or you found it on Able or whatever. But for a dumb movie that it is, it's fine. I give it 5 Saturday morning TV stars out of 10 hot dogs.
I think if I would have felt like they even were having fun making this movie, I probably would have liked it a little bit more, but it just seems like everybody's...
Did you not watch the harmonica scene?
Oh my God.
So much fun.
I mean, yeah, sure. And maybe it was a movie that I went to. I think I felt like I was oversold, especially reading the plot. Like it's saying, oh, this prison planet, and I just expected more action with it being so kind of dry and slow. I think that's just really what kind of turned me off.
Dry and slow lesbian stuff is usually a turn off. I agree.
I like it slippery and wet and fast. I guess slippery and wet would be the same thing, right? Well, it doesn't have to be. Whatever.
Sloppy and gushing. So
gushing.
Right. Ugh. So our question of the week last week, which is, if you watched our live stream and it came through, we actually asked this 3 days ago, something like that. But the question of the week from last week was, who is your favorite or least favorite clown, or something like that. Responses we got this week: Pot of the Dam responded, no contest, Art the Clown is the best, and includes a picture of Art with googly eyes. So I'm sure you like that.
I like that part. I'm sure you like that.
Moments in Time and Space replied, Shakes the Clown was one messed up trip. I don't remember this clown, so I'm going to take your word for it, but he looks like an asshole.
Shakes the Clown is Bobcat Goldthwait, isn't it?
I don't remember. Sure. He doesn't, I mean, he looks like a clown in this picture. If it's Bobcat, I can't tell from the picture that he included.
Yeah, it's Bobcat.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I don't like this movie already. I'm just taking a look at the fucking poster. You're rubbing off on me.
Yeah, I'm trying to convert everybody to my way of thinking.
I mean, this plot is a little bit of a better seller. Shakes as good as his job as a party clown when he's sober.
Yeah.
Our friend Zach Clark of the, how do I pronounce it? And some. He's on WWJ also. You can catch his daily podcast, which is the Daily J. Especially if you're local to Michigan, it's definitely worth checking out. He replied that he will always love The Simpsons and Frasier above all else. Besides Show Bob is his favorite clown, but gives a nod to the most underappreciated or underrated clown, Hooter the Clown from Uncle Buck, which I don't like this clown either. He looks like a real dickhead. So
don't they all?
Yeah. What was your answer for this? I don't remember.
Well, I didn't give an answer. I mean, I don't like clowns, so but I do have a favorite. I think they're all bad, but I think of all the bad ones, my favorite of them all is Homie the Clown from In Living Color.
He doesn't play that.
I had a Homie the Clown shirt in middle school, junior high, middle school. So I got to give props to Homie. Homie don't play that.
My favorite clown will always be Eric the Clown, portrayed by John Favreau in one episode of Seinfeld. Mostly just watching him argue with George is always going to make me laugh. I'd like to give an honorable mention to Krusty, though, because he is such a dirtbag of a human being, and he plays it just wonderful. I don't know if he's still like that on the show, but like for the run of The Simpsons, where it was a great show, Krusty being a dirtbag episodes were always some of my favorite. Yeah. Just constantly drunk, constantly berating people.
That's what you want out of a clown.
That's what I want out of a clown. I can't speak for anyone else. So what's our question of the week for next week?
This week's question of the week, do you have a favorite women in prison movie? I'll let you think on that till next week.
I have another one that I need to watch, which looks pretty good. So,
it could be a contender, huh?
It could be. Well, again, you saw a clip of it, that Reform Girls School movie, where it was just women beating the shit out of each other for a solid minute and a half. I mean, it sounds like something to watch.
Now that I could get into.
I'll preview it and see if it lives up to our high bar standards for this show. Do you got anything you want to add before we start wrapping up for the week?
No.
The
movie wasn't amazing. Sometimes you win some, you lose some.
So disappointed. All right. Well, I'm going to go be disappointed and take a nap. In the meantime, while I'm doing that, and while you are still listening to this, you can follow us on all the social networks. We are at Dewey Pod Monster Podcast. We reply pretty quickly on there, and we will drop that question of the week where we can read your answers right on here. You can also find us on our website, which is crap.town, and we're available on all streaming platforms where you can leave us feedback right on the episode in many cases too. Also, check out everything Sean has going on. Sean, tell us what we got going on in other parts of the world.
Well, if you're into Michigan craft beer or craft beer in general, you can find me at youtube.drafttherapy.com. On my YouTube channel, I talk about, as you guessed it, Michigan craft beer for the most part, about 90% of the time. We've been starting to do a little bit more of the road show, going out and about, talking to people, talking about the breweries, talking about the beer. And you can also find me on all the social media networks at Draft Therapy.
Boom. That's what we do. All right. I think that's all we got for the week. This is probably going to be a shorter episode, so deal with it. We went really long last week, and I'm exhausted. So have a good week. We'll talk to you soon. Favorite and least favorite clown?
Or, not and.
Oh, I said and.
I don't even have a favorite. How could I have a least favorite?
I don't know. Sure you like one more than some other one?
No.
Probably.
Mm-mm.
No. Equal hatred for everyone?
Yep. The only good clown is a dead clown.